All right, welcome back. Continuing with Chapter 6, talking more about syndication for television, and we're going to start now talking about the decision process as related to syndication. First off, determining need for programming. The station and rep programmers will approach the determination of the need for new shows by first looking at the performance of the existing schedule on the television station and trying to identify trouble spots. Where are the ratings not holding up? Where is the audience not there? What's the competition doing that might be keeping viewers away from what's happening on their particular station? They're going to do some troubleshooting before they make decisions on what sorts of programs that they want to try to take on. Analyzing selection options. Well, there's several things that can happen here. First off, they can decide to do nothing. They can hope for improved performance. They can hope for a mistake to be made by their competition. Just kind of a wait and see sort of approach. They could swap shows. They could change the programming lineup of two or more programs that the station already has on the air. They can move a program from one day part to another, and that would trigger a change in license fee for the station if they were to do that, especially for first run programs. Syndicators will often make what they call tier or step deals with stations. So it would basically be that the syndicator would charge a television station a certain price for a program that airs within a certain day part or a certain time slot. So if the station were to make a change as to what time that show was to air, it could trigger a change in how much the station has to pay per episode to the syndicator. It's to a station's advantage to negotiate a step deal to avoid a potentially expensive program playing in a low revenue time period, because the step deal will work in that way as well. If the ratings just do not show, then that's something that the syndicator will work with the station on as well, besides the other way around, where if the ratings go up and the syndicator would ask for more. Step deals are relatively rare for off-network programs, I should say. Thus, stations pay the same fee regardless of what time the program airs. So a show that was popular on network programming, generally the price the syndicator offers is the price that the syndicator offers, and you're going to pay it and you're going to like it. Another selection strategy would be to substitute shows. You could replace a program with a show that was put on hiatus, or a show that's kind of on the shelf, if you will, to try to change things up in your lineup a little bit. Several questions need to be answered before replacing a poorly performing show with a show that was put on hiatus, however, including things such as, has the show been off the air enough that to put it back on, the audience would come back, that it would be enlivened to that particular show? Will the ratings for the replacement show be better than the show that was decided to have been taken off? A couple of different questions that happen there. A station could choose to buy a new show. Programmers must determine whether a new program will be superior to an existing show and whether it will be strong enough to offset the additional cost. Because again, keep in mind, if you take a show off the air while you're still under contract for the show, you still have to pay for the show. You still have to air any spots from the syndicator associated with the show. So not only are you putting out more money paying for a new show, you're also taking airtime away from you, the station, that you could sell to local advertisers because you have to make good all those spots. Now, although expense is a consideration in any programming decision, programmers must keep the station competitive. So sometimes a financial decision, while, in the end, we're all in it to make money, sometimes you have to consider whether reducing the overall net revenue coming in is a risk you're willing to take in order to have programming that overall is going to be attractive to the audience in a market. As a result, ratings grow for future possible revenue generation, or it could even bolster the overall ability for the station to gain revenue with shows that surround the show that may not be making as much money because there's enough of an audience that's coming in and sticking with the station that it actually winds up benefiting advertising slots within other programming. Another selection strategy would be to switch stations. If a company owns two stations in a market, a program could take on new life by switching a show from one station to another. You might see this happen swapping shows, for example, in our market between Channel 22 and Channel 28. You might also see this happen in our market where both Channel 5 and Channel 50 are owned by Capital Broadcasting. So there is possibilities to do that if, as a broadcaster, you own two stations in the television market. And then the final selection option would be to simply not renew a show that you are under contract for. Let the contract run out. When the contract runs out, say goodbye to the show and just kind of figure out what you're going to do next. Okay, let's go into a little detail now on how the stations can actually earn money in the middle of all of this. The main value figure that television stations is really going to get to when it comes to bottom line value is, and this is what a lot of advertising agencies are looking at as well, is cost per point. Cost per point is the number of dollars advertising agencies or advertisers are willing to pay for each ratings point that the station delivers. So let's talk a little bit more about what that might mean. A ratings point equals 1% of the television households in a market. So if there are 1 million homes in a particular market that are considered to be available for a television station, 1% of that million would be 10,000 households. So the cost per point would be the amount of money that you are spending to reach that 1% of the population. In this case, the amount of money you're spending to reach 10,000 households out of 1 million potential households. The larger the market, the larger the number of viewers. Makes sense. The amount of revenue a station can expect varies accordingly by market size. And also, the license fee for programs is going to change as well. So we're weighing in all these different things. So the cost per point for Raleigh is going to be different than the cost per point for Atlanta or Philadelphia or New York or Greensboro or Asheville. It's going to depend on the population of the area. Cost per thousand, or CPM, that is what advertising agencies pay a certain amount for each 1,000 households. So the cost per point is going to be the value based on the percentage of the population. Cost per thousand is a more absolute number. You're determining how much money you're paying to reach 1,000 households. And by the way, if you're wondering where the M comes from in cost per thousand, M is the Roman numeral for 1,000. So CPM, cost per thousand. The net, this number is the final revenue received by a station from advertising within a program. So there's a formula here that stations will use to determine what the net is for a program that they air on their station. And it takes into account what the commercial rate is during that program. if it's a certain value, whatever it costs to buy one 30-second spot or one 60-second spot. Usually we talk about it in terms of 30-second spots in television. So the rate per commercial avail, how much you're paying for each individual slot, times the number of slots that are available, the number of avails. That's going to create your gross revenue for that program per day. You multiply that by the net revenue level, because generally when we're talking about advertising, you are going to be paying a commission. You're going to pay a commission either to the sales rep for the station that sold the advertising time locally, or you're going to be paying a commission to an advertising agency. And that is generally going to be 15%. That's kind of the accepted value that tends to be paid out to salespeople and to advertising agencies. So the net revenue level on the station side is going to be the remaining 85%. So you take the gross revenue times 85% or times 0.85. That's your net revenue per day. Then you're going to multiply that by the sell-out rate. And the usual projection here is going to be in the neighborhood of an 80% sell-out rate, meaning that 20% of the commercial avails within a program are not going to be sold. They're either going to be taken up by bonus spots that are made available or make good spots that the station has to do, or they may use that advertising time for promos that the station runs for other shows that it's airing, for its news product, for certain public service announcements and that sort of thing. So you run through this entire equation and you get what is called the net. That this would be kind of the equivalent to what you would earn in your actual paycheck when you work from a job after all of the deductions are taken away and they've accounted how many hours you've worked and that sort of thing. So the net is the final revenue, the bottom line, what actually goes into the bank account for the television station when it's all said and done. Negotiation. Syndicators select which station receives a show based on these factors: the highest purchase price offered, the size of the down payment, the length of the payout, and the television station's ability to make payments. In other words, how credit-worthy is the television station? Yeah, that's a consideration. If the station is doing well enough that they believe they're going to get a check every week or every month or however often the contract says they're going to get the check, that's going to be a factor in whether or not the syndicator goes into an agreement with that television station. Some other factors include the best time period for the sake of barter ads, because a syndicator is also going to be interested in getting the best time period for their show in order to be able to charge a certain rate to the advertisers that it sells to, as well as the strength of the station, how much power the station puts out, the potential reach of the station, and the most compatible adjacent programming. So the syndicator is also looking at the other shows that a station airs and is trying to make a determination as to how well the audience will do on that station based on other programming the station already has. And then bidding. Syndicators may opt to pitch a show to several stations in a market and accept the highest bidder. Reps will track reserve prices and selling prices in other markets, as well as down payment percentages and payout terms in those markets. And bidding works only for the must-have shows that are truly mega hits. So in general, the syndicators are going to set the rates that they want based on all the information that we've talked about. But if there is a wildly popular show that is going on syndication, they may just kind of turn it into an auction format, and the show winds up going to the station that bids the most to get the show. All right, one more break, one more video to go, and then we will finish up the notes for Chapter 6. I'll see you over on Part D.